Welcome to Heartland TV. I'm Apostle Jeremy Scott Gibbs.
And I'm Prophet Kenneth DeMars.
We've been talking about the love of money being the root of all evil. And I want to point one big thing out right now. You know, that word, that phrase, the love of money, is only used once right there in 1 Timothy chapter 6. That's the only time that word's used. But the root of that word means to be covetous, to covet. And that brings it into a little bit more perspective. And that's only used twice in the New Testament. And then the root of that word, covetous, is a compound word, and it means a friend of silver. And so I wanted to go to Matthew chapter 6 real quick, because Jesus is talking there, and he says, "No one can serve two masters. Either he will love one, he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other." Well, that's pretty blanket. I guess you can't serve two masters. But what was Jesus talking about? The end of the verse says, you cannot serve both God and money. And the reality is, you got believers out there who say they're serving God, say they're trusting God. But when it comes down to whether you're going to trust God or serve your job, your paycheck, you pick your paycheck.
Yep.
How many people out there would be willing to quit their job, just quit, and trust God? You know, we got unemployment that just keeps increasing. And it's going to keep increasing because of what they're doing in government. There's no jobs. They're not going to create jobs in the government. Government doesn't create jobs except more government bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. But they don't create
open soldier spots.
Exactly. They don't create any more jobs. And how do they create more government jobs? By taxing more of us. Mm-hmm. They got to tax the citizens. And we're sitting by doing it because we're supposed to submit to government. That's a whole other series we talked about. Go look that one up. But talking about this, you can't serve both. And why did Jesus bring that distinction? Why did he say you can't serve you can't serve God and money? Why is money at that core? Because he was foreshadowing what Paul wrote in Timothy, that the love of money is the root of all evil. And when you see evil at work, when you see the poor oppressed in a district, don't be surprised. It all comes down to the love of money.
And it really is control.
Absolutely.
Because it's the same thing with God. When you turn your life over to the Lord, He wants to take control because His main concern is your freedom. Mm-hmm. Because He loves the individual that turned their life over to Him. And it's the same thing with money. When you love money, you gain control.
Right.
And when you gain control, that's the whole thing about man. He wants control.
Absolutely.
And so money is that avenue every single time.
We think about this when we talk about the love of money. What were the wars that were fought past the Revolutionary War and the Civil War in this country? Even the Civil War, even the Revolutionary War. Now, our side of the Revolutionary War, we drafted, our founding fathers drafted a Declaration of Independence and said, we're breaking away from England. And England said, no, you're not. Why? Money.
Control and money.
I mean, the whole Revolutionary War was soldered over no taxation without representation. Mm-hmm. They said, we're not going to be taxed by you without having a voice in the government to say where those taxes are going. And and England said, no, you're going to be taxed, and we're going to enforce it with a gun.
Right.
Well, that's kind of familiar with what we've got now, right? You're going to be, because if you don't pay what they say is lawful taxes, they come to your house and they take your stuff at the barrel of a gun. They go grab the local cops and they come and tell you, even though it's what they created. It's what the government creates and says, oh, all of a sudden you owe. It's like right now with the healthcare bill. They passed the healthcare bill and now they say, oh, you're going to get healthcare. Mm-hmm. It's all a lie to get everybody into it.
Yeah, and tell me that's not all about money when we start paying that healthcare at the end of this year and don't get it till 2015. Tell me that makes sense.
Now look at history. World War I, World War II, all fought over money. You don't believe me? Go study history. Yep. And since really the assassination of JFK, every war or conflict we've ever been involved with as American citizens has been completely about money. And now, since the 80s, we have this garbage lie perpetuated over and over again. There's a war on drugs. There's a war on poverty. There's a war on terror. These are all fictitious, man. These are all made up. And what's at the root of it? Money. Because if you wanted to get rid of drugs, you'd legalize them all. You'd wipe them out. You would wipe out the drug trade. You don't believe us? Go study history. When they put in prohibition, what happened?
The skyrocketing usage, payout.
The mafia made so much money, and the government themselves, I mean, their revenue, because they had to go and fight this evil of alcohol. And they got the church dragged into it, just stupidly following along. We're going to get rid of... So we're going to legislate morality. You know, we're going to tell people that they can't drink alcohol and take away their freedoms and their rights, as if that's the evil. No, you need to talk to you need to deal with the heart of man. Because them drinking alcohol, that's just what's coming out of their heart.
And we can even go more recent with our war on drugs. We move into Afghanistan. Heroin usage raises 7 times in America. And then who do we find out's the number one dealer for heroin? The CIA. So how much better when you can go, get the drugs, import the drugs, sell the drugs, bust a few people to keep the rest of the population ignorant, get those drugs back, and then sell them again.
Oh, that's a good racket, isn't it? I mean, think about it. If we're going to do both sides of the drug war, well, then we're going to go with, we're going to make money on coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make money from the sales of the drugs, and then we're going to make money every time we bust somebody.
Right.
Because if you buy a drug, and then you get busted, you got to pay all these court costs, all these fines, everything else, maybe do some jail time, and then if we do jail time, well, we got to get money from the citizens to pay for that person to be incarcerated. Right. It's all about the money.
Right, and then how many times do they beg for the citizens' money to help them fight this drug war that they're dealing?
Yeah. Oh, Congress needs to send a couple more billions of dollars, $40 billion more, $80 billion more, to continue our war in Afghanistan, our war in Iraq.
Right.
These are oil-producing companies. I mean, if we're really over there to help them, why aren't they paying for their own war? Because it's not about that. It's about seizing control and taking the money. It's all about the money. Mm-hmm. They wanted to go into Afghanistan and get that oil pipeline going for the longest time, and they wouldn't let them do it. The government that was there wouldn't let them do it. So, all of a sudden we got the Taliban, they're evil people, and we're going to go in there and do this. You know, it's all about the love of money. Here's a good thing. What do they say? The rule of thumb is, when you're looking at something, follow the money.
Yeah.
Where does it end up? Whose pockets get lined by this? That's where you'll find the source of what's really going on there. You know, our troops, we're paying, as American taxpayers, paying for our troops to support the poppy fields in Afghanistan. And they say, oh, no big deal. We got to maintain stability in the country.
Yeah.
And then you look over here, and our kids, there's a 7-fold increase in heroin usage. It's epidemic now. In how many years? Well, since the start of the Afghan war.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it started to go back up. They almost had it eliminated. They wanted to get rid of it over there in Afghanistan.
Yep.
It's these fictitious wars and what's going on with it. You know, they don't want to fix the borders. You know why? There's money. They don't want to fix... What's a war on poverty? Jesus said you're always going to have the poor with you.
Mm-hmm.
There are people, there are people that want to be poor. Yes, there are people that don't want to be poor, okay? But there's a vast group of people that's the life they've chosen. They don't want to do anything else.
It doesn't even make sense when you can say there's a war on poverty, and then your government passes so many laws and legislations that it creates more poverty.
Absolutely.
And there's a war on it? Oh, you mean there's a war for it?
What about the fact that it all goes around and around and around, and comes back to this one thing. You follow the money, you'll find out who's benefiting. It's all about the love of money.